I'm not Shehzad Naroo, as you can see. He's on the other side of the table. This is a peculiar presentation. We decided to play two parts and have an open confrontation and a serious and open exchange between Mr. Multifocal versus Mr. Monovision. We'll see who's the monovision and who's the multifocal. Forse si potrebbe dare la cuffia per la traduzione a Shehzad. We needed different characters, so we decided to impersonate them, two clinical cases of monovision and multifocal. One is a person wearing multifocals and one wearing monovision CLs.
Some characters from Monsters, Inc., Monsters University. Now, there isn't a character with many eyes. We have a character in Toy Story that has 3 eyes, but 3 is trifocal. So we want multifocal. So we chose a character which has multiple colors. And so, Mr. Fabrizio, if you don't mind, I would like you to call me Randall.
Yeah, sure. Sure. And please call me Mike, because I'm Mike Wazowski. Do you remember? Voi ricordate Mike Wazowski molto bene. È la classica versione.
You remember him? He's the classical monovision person. So our task today is trying to attack the other and win the battle of Monster University. Can I go first? So I'd like to attack Randall by saying that multifocal CLs are a disaster. We cannot go on with a lens that produces this kind of retinal image. This is a work by Professor Chapman, dating back many years, showing that multifocal contact lenses are not working. All the more so if the center is decentered. And this I'd like to tell Randall to say something about it.
Come on, Mike.
And there's another point. This work shows that by using this very poor contact lens, we have worse visual acuity, especially low contrast compared to monovision. I had to wear my monovision just to perform well in my character, and I don't think that he can see very well using his multifocal CLs.
The multifocal and the monovision visual acuities is not so big a difference. We're looking at logmore acuities. It's not such a big difference. So I'm not 100% convinced by your argument. Secondly, Mike, let's look at the figures that we have in all the countries of how much contact lenses are fitted and what percentage of those are multifocal contact lenses, which is the grey area, and which percentage is monovision, which is the white one. The rest of the patients will be having single vision lenses with reading glasses. But in Italy, you will see that a majority of the presbyopic patients are being fitted with multifocal contact lenses. And in fact, Professor Luigi just said exactly the same thing. And he showed a very nice graph, the aging demographic in Italy. Italy loves multifocal lenses.
Yes,
Italy loves
now,
Randall.
Can I interrupt you just a second? Io vivo in Inghilterra ora. Puoi far vedere la barra del UK?
Can you show the UK bar?
In the middle. Yeah, in the middle here. So in the UK we're about 50% multifocal, 50% monovision. But in fact, Mike, I'm very glad you asked me this question because the way this information was collected, the questionnaire was sent to specialist practitioners. And in the UK, we don't really have so many specialist practitioners fitting contact lenses. Most of the contact lenses are fitted by the big companies, super optical companies, chains. In Italy, I think more multifocal contact lenses are fitted by specialists, and this questionnaire was filled in by specialists. So I think this is an explanation of this difference. Thank you. So, in my opinion, Mike, multifocal contact lenses, you said that they have poor visual optical quality, but they are the preferred lenses by presbyopes. Presbyopes prefer multifocal contact lenses. They want to see at different distances. And we have these studies, Situ, Richdale, they found very similar satisfaction. They found that approximately 3/4 of the patients preferred multifocal lenses to monovision. Woods, he found that the visual performance was actually better with multifocal lenses. And the opposite to your previous slide, there was another study here by Raj Golapalan, and they basically also found that soft multifocal lenses perform better than monovision. In fact, they also found that gas-permeable multifocals perform even better, which we would expect with a gas-permeable lens because the optical quality is usually better. So, let's think about attention and perception. We know that people have to adapt to multifocal contact lenses the same way they have to adapt to their varifocal spectacles. And if you look at this slide here, this picture, and you look at any of the white dots, let's start with the middle one. So if you look at the middle white dot, all the other dots, they look grey. Then you move your attention to another dot, maybe this one in the bottom, and all the other ones, they look grey. So it's depending on your attention and your perception, your brain can change and move the images and blur the image it doesn't want to see. So in multifocal contact lenses, your brain can choose the correct image. Now, in my opinion, multifocal contact lenses is a better answer, but monovision presents a stress to the visual system. Multifocals don't have that stress. These papers by these many authors, they show that there's a loss of stereopsis when you use monovision contact lens systems.
Ok, devo rispondere a questo punto. Intanto non è vero.
I have to answer at this point. It's not true. Randall, let me tell you that there are studies showing that stereopsis doesn't decline in monovision. And the study was carried out on emerging presbyopes with low addition. But this is not completely true. How can you explain this? Bruce Evans is a very famous British researcher that studied dominance. He said the success rate, that's a review published in 2007, said that the success rate of monovision, if you take patients and give them monovision contact lenses, is 59 to 67%. And then, of course, that's not all. Let me show you some research projects carried out by an Italian-British working group. The brain adapts to monovision. A recent study on monovision patients and balanced subjects. And we try to understand what happens when patients receive monovision contact lenses in terms of brain plasticity. Can the brain really affected and changed by that? So two conditions, monovision and balanced binocular correction. You can see the passive stimuli protocol, in fact, was based on evoked potentials with 64 electrodes. Let me explain some curves. These significant curves of a typical ERP tracing, it's electroencephalography. Some curves are very different. this is repeated measurements. So people with monovision and balanced binocular vision. The significantly different curves concern the primary cortex. Signal amplitude in monovision tends to decline. So monovision in the primary cortex and striated cortex leads to a worsening of signal. I'm in monovision, and probably my brain in the occipital area is receiving information that is worse than without any monovision contact lens. But waves coming from the prefrontal areas of our brain are emphasized by monovision. The brain is actually doing things, and waves are changing. And therefore, the brain compensates for reduced signal in the primary visual cortex. So something happens. And that's another study. People in monovision, inverted monovision. Does it work the same way if I put my contact lens on the non-dominant eye? And we had them read 3 different types of stimuli: words, non-words, invented words that make no sense. They cannot read non-words, and passages. Let's look at what happened. This is repeated measurements on the same subject that was randomized and so on and so forth, and the 3 stimuli were analyzed. Let's look at the right side of the slide. With the passage, there was no different. If I give monovision, inverted monovision, or control vision with balanced eyes, 40 centimeters near correction, no difference. There's no difference. No difference with words that have a meaning. But if I'm reading non-words, something happens. In normal reading, reading is much more resilient than we can imagine. Randall says that's stressful, but there's no change. In fact, it's a physiological evidence of non-change. So it's me again. I've always thought that monovision is easier. I'm using monovision now. I'm not telling you what lens I'm wearing. If I can change it, I can use a daily, monthly hydrogel, silicone hydrogel. I can change it and do what I want. So there's a flexibility, an enormous flexibility. I can use contact lenses of different types. What about you? You're right.
Right. It's easy to stay in bed in the morning, but it doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. So the right thing is to look at the success rates and the availability. Monovision will stay the same. The success rates will stay the same. The products will stay the same. But multifocal contact lenses will continue to improve. We will have better designs. We will mix our multifocal lenses, putting a low add in one side and a high add in the other side. So we have modified monovision. And if we look last year in the contact lens spectrum, they have an annual publication called Contact Lenses and Solutions. And last year, there were lots and lots and lots of available contact lenses in different parameters, different materials, different modalities, different wearing schedules, all the different companies. Availability is very easy. Another thing, when both of us, we were starting to practice more than 20 years ago, multifocal contact lenses, we used to think of it as a speciality. We had to measure everything separately, tell the manufacturer this is what I would like to have, and then they would send you a lens. Now we have them in the consulting room, we have them in the stock room. We have lots of them. If it doesn't work, we try a different one straight away. So the availability is there at your availability in your practice. If we look at the number of different types, we have daily disposable, reusable spherical lenses, even toric multifocal lenses, daily wear, and even extended wear. There is lots of different modalities now. There's no excuse not to try these lenses. But I think you didn't answer one point, which I think is quite an important point here. Monovision doesn't work with people with a higher AD. So once you have a bigger difference between your two eyes and you need a higher addition, then you will lose your intermediate vision. And I think you need to answer that point.
In questo momento
Well, I can see very well. I have very good intermediate vision, but it very much depends on addition. I'm still a young presbyope. Of course, it's something that happens with high ads. It very much depends on the patient. We can make our application flexible. If I have monovision, high ad, tomorrow I decide and drive back to Birmingham. It's a long journey, so I'm going to use a third contact lens for distance that can help me. I can modify the monovision. There are ways to modify the monovision. I can have additional correction in some cases on top of it to improve my result and my performance. So the argument may be true, but I think I can answer quite easily. People using monovision contact lenses are doing that for life. You don't give up monovision as you age or increase your addition level. So do you think it could really work with you with multifocals?
I'm not sure.
Ok, per concludere, ovviamente diciamo.
In conclusion, the battle is still open. Who's the winner? Who's the winner? So who's scary? Who's the one that makes me laugh? We try to move in two dimensions. We need to be quite ironical when talking about presbyopia. There are possible advantages and disadvantages. Different patients have different needs, and I think we need to be professional and look for the right way to approach presbyopia in each and every patient. Integrate the two approaches, modified monovision and modified multifocal. And the two approaches can be integrated. Not infrequently, people use monovision and a multifocal lens on the other eye. So a little bit of everything. Thank you.